And good morning, everybody. Welcome to this week's edition of Tech Down Over with myself and Rick Zanotti.
And we are back.
And we're back.
I don't have that much of a voice today, so Jeff's going to do more talking. Also, Harold Muliati is joining us today. He's going to be filling in. He's the new voice.
Yeah, I think, and Rick's going to be able to do a little bit of a transcontinental ventriloquism on Geoff. So,
oh, that's good. Yes. Well, that's good because so far this year I've managed to not look at any podcasts or any YouTubes of any product so far this year because I'm getting sick to death of wanting these things. And so I thought, hey, what's the best way of getting out of that way? Just don't watch all the things about all the new great products.
It's true. If you don't watch it, you won't know what you're missing.
No, that's right. But then some people that have go and buy some decent, really good cameras like the Canon 705 and really get you interested. You just can't avoid doing it. But I believe you've been...
I was sending you a note earlier. We've been doing 3 full days of shooting. We've got about 12 or 13 more to finish the shoot. And we're using the Canon XF705. And our shooter there, Tony, said, this is one of the best cameras I've ever worked on. It is great. He said, and he shoots routinely C200s, C300s, other camcorders, other cameras. He's got Panasonic, remember the P2s? They had the memory sticks. He's got one of those still that's only like 2-3 years old. And he said, this camera is great. He loves it. And you know what else has good look? Wow. Because when they set it up, we were there in the morning. When he set it up at the client site, they're all like, ooh, what's that? Ooh. You got this kind of sound from them. Ooh. Ooh. And then, of course, when he starts filming, you get this. Yay! Okay. It works well, and it looks good. And I'll tell you that Ninja Atomos, it's a beautiful, excuse me, it's a beautiful recorder. And the screen, 1,000 nits, it is so nice. We put a 512 SSD in it. Records a whole day with about maybe 150 gigs left, and it looks good. It looks good. It's doing ProRes. I think we're doing LT, which is the lowest of the ProRes, but for what we're doing, it looks great. It's absolutely great. And when you have this many hours, you don't want it super high quality. It's just good quality. So,
and another thing that we noticed about the 705 is, just looking at comparing the pictures of them, of the 405, for example, and the 705, they look pretty similar. But when you actually see the 705, it's considerably bigger than the 405, and because of that, it just looks a little more impressive. It's that much more.
Yeah.
It looks like there's that much more to it.
But the picture quality is actually a little bit better. It's at a higher bit rate in all cases, and it just looks good. And we're not shooting in 4K. We're shooting in 1080p, and it looks awesome.
And that's why he was saying how great he liked that 705 as opposed to the C200s and 300s. Like they do an excellent job, the C200s and 300s, but they're designed for people who do everything manual and for putting all these cinema lenses on them, and that they do a great job. But you do need to have a couple of years of training to get the best out of it, which you found out with even the C100. It does a great thing, but if you don't do just that little thing, it produces a really inferior quality. It's not the camera's fault, but those 705s, 405s are designed for people like us that want all the extras, but sometimes we want to be able to see good results.
Well, he even said the C300 and 200, or even the 100, for this kind of shoot where you're shooting 8 hours straight, they're not built for that. They're really not built to go that long. They'll get hotter. They're clunkier. They're not as easy to move around or focus. He goes, this thing, he's in love with it, and he was involved in the product rollout for the XF400 and 405. He's been shooting. He shot for 3 months on a boat in Hawaii, Canon sponsored, and he said it was a great camera, but it was too much menu. He goes, this is where it should have been with all the buttons and controls. He's falling in love with it. He says this is nice. So that's good to see, and it's good to hear the feedback that we actually got a good camera. Probably should have gotten 2 of them, but for right now, 1 is good enough. And it also acts as a second camera to a C300, 200, or other cinema line because it has the same color space.
And the thing is with those cameras, you've got quite a decent zoom pull. Whereas in all these other ones, you have to pay thousands of dollars to get a lens that will do that. And inbuilt in these, you can get these. What's that? Got a 20 times zoom.
It's got a 15 optical with a 30 digital, which is quite a bit.
But you never use it digital because that always is rubbish compared to the.
Well, actually, in this case, the digital looks good. It actually looks very good. Actually, what is it? 8 millimeter at the moment, or
I think if I recall, I think it's something like 8 to 387. It's like almost 400.
Yeah. And it looks good as you zoom all the way in. It's sharp.
And I mean, another thing about camcorders like the 705, where it's that sort of professional camcorder level, is like Doug Jensen was saying, and I hope I'm not misquoting him, but I remember him saying something along the lines of compared to cinema cameras, then on shoots that can be a little more unpredictable if you're on events or that sort of thing, then they'll be a bit more reliable for you. So I guess that kind of goes hand in hand with what Rick was talking about with the sort of endurance. They're more able to film for longer, and it's just that much easier if something you didn't quite expect happens that you have to adapt for.
Wow.
Well, it's like you said about the endurance. Like I've got to say, they've got the GH5, and that records continuously. You can get power, but I tell you what, if I had something to film for 2 or 3 hours, hang on, I've got to go. This is my mother. Okay, I'll just go.
Pre-show, he said he had to attend a phone call because his mom was in the hospital. So Geoff may or may not come back with us.
Well, we'll keep an eye out for him, and if we see him coming over the horizon, then he'll be back.
Yep. But he's not on Verizon. He's in Australia.
Yeah, that's well.
I don't know what they have there.
Oh no, over the horizon.
Oh, over the horizon. As you said Verizon, I went.
I don't think there's. Well, I guess Verizon exists to some extent still, but a lot of them has.
So anyway, keeping on the theme of cameras and camcorders, we also got the Panasonic GH5S over the holidays, and we've done some shooting with it, some photos and some video. That camera is pretty impressive. We talked about it last week a bit, and we haven't shot a lot with it yet, but what we're seeing is a very flexible camera with pretty good low light, dual ISO, so you've got even better low light capabilities where it keeps it within range and yet does a beautiful job of not spilling over, getting too many highlights. It looks good. It's got very good focus. We have sat in front of it for hours, and it is not hunting. It's on you. If you move around, it's moving with you. I haven't noticed any hunting at all. Maybe if you come out of or into a scene, it might for a very quick second blur a bit, but that's one time only. You don't do it anymore. So I'd say the Panasonic dual pixel, not dual pixel, but depth by defocus is getting better and better. So even though they haven't gone the way other people are doing, it's still pretty darn good the way they do it.
And the colors on it are great. I think they're noticeably better than just the base GH5. What would you say, Rick?
I'd say the colors look pretty Canon-esque.
Definitely.
And it's noticeable. Even the G9, the Panasonic G9, which is another lovely camera, that's very Canon-esque. I was looking at some footage I took with Canons originally, and then looking at stuff I did on the G9. Very close. And you go, wow, that's kind of neat. Now, Fuji has very Canon-like. I mean, they have their own look, but they're also pretty good. Maybe a tad more saturated, but they look very good too. Though I'm not a Fuji fan. I know Fuji people get irritated when you say that, but sorry, that's life. I don't like the interface that much.
We mentioned this in I think last week's show or something, but with the GH5S, we actually, interestingly enough, got the best results not by using white balance cards for color, but we just did auto white balance and just basically did a preset based on what it came up with for the auto white balance.
Which is interesting.
So it's got very good auto white balance.
Yeah. And which is like Canon. A lot of times Canon's auto white balance is as good or better than choosing a specific custom white balance, which is rare. You don't usually get that too often. So it's interesting. What else have we got? We talked about the Atomos Ninja 5. That is incredible. By the way, it's an Atomos Ninja V, but it's really Roman numeral 5. It is a great recorder. We have the Shogun, we've got the Assassin, and a couple of other ones, and I like this one the best of all of them.
Well, I mean, the thing about this was, if you'll remember, we pretty much took it out of the box, put it on the camera.
Yeah, like that.
Within a minute, we were able to set it up to do everything we wanted. You know, record based on time code, all that sort of thing.
And it was good. It looked good and sounded good. So kudos to Atomos. They're in Australia. It's a lot of good companies in Australia that are doing tech and audio and video. So I don't know what it is. Must be the climate of the kangaroos or something. But man, they're good.
Yeah, we've got a lot of. We use a lot of Australian products for our media, I guess. I mean, now we're using when we're on VMix.
We're on VMix, which is done in Australia, northern part of Australia, on the east coast, and then we use a lot of Rode microphones. Those are from Australia. We have the RELATECASTS from Australia. What else do we have? We've got Atomos, Australia, Blackmagic Design.
Blackmagic Design. We've used cards from them.
Yep.
Right now we're on Mageville's, but we've used a good number of.
But we use
cards.
DaVinci Resolve for video editing.
Which
That's Blackmagic.
Speaking of the XF705, there are what I believe you said. There's only two.
Two.
Well,
Adderall and Blackmagic Design's DaVinci Resolve 15 are the only two that can read H.265 files, which are twice as small as H.264. The compression is incredible on H.265, and you don't lose the quality.
And we did notice we were able to kind of jury rig Premiere into accepting H.265, but we didn't want to use that because I don't know if it's an official feature yet, or there's still.
It was a fearful moment.
Yeah.
But Harold said he changed the MPEG instead of.
All I had to do was change the file extension to an MP4, and then it accepted.
What was it originally?
Because it was an MXF wrapper file.
MXF, yeah. So by changing it to MPG, it worked, which is funny, but it worked. Talk about a workaround. But that's okay. We paid the $300 for the pay version of Resolve, and then we could read it perfectly without having to do that.
If you plan to use Resolve to edit H.265 files, it has to be the studio. I believe right now it's only the studio version that accepts H.265.
Wait, no, Harold, thinking about that, maybe all they do is they change the extension from MXF to MPG.
No, I tried that on the free Resolve. It didn't do it.
It didn't do it?
It just doesn't let you bring it in.
Interesting. So only who was able to read it? Was that Premiere?
Well, Premiere was able to, and then of course Resolve Studio is able to.
Yeah. If you haven't done video editing with DaVinci Resolve 15, it's good. It's a nice tool. You've got your video, your audio, your animations, your coloring, all in one, and it keeps and it's location dependent. So wherever you move on the timeline and you open color or any of the other features, it's always at the same spot in the timeline. Very clever. Fusion, it's got Fusion, which is their After Effects kind of thing. It's nice. Now, Fusion is very powerful, but it takes you a little bit to get your head around it. There's some things that are not quite as straightforward, but once you do, I think it's just as powerful as many things out there.
And part of one thing that was interesting about our experience getting Resolve Studio was actually just the way that you order it. You know, you have to go through a reseller, and then they actually send you. Well, you have to order a physical card. Well, they have two ways. You can get a physical card that has your serial number, which they have to mail to you, or you can get a dongle, which you plug into whatever computer you're going to use it with. And I mean, when you get the physical card, it's like a little booklet that they have the card in, and then they also have the actual software on an SD card. So I was kind of surprised because, you know, not that many software packages actually come as a physical item.
And on an SD card of all things. How big was the SD card? Like 4 gigs?
I believe it was 4 gigs, but
4 gigs,
the software itself was only half a gig or something like that.
Right. That's pretty cool because 4 gigs are like a couple of bucks.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. But DaVinci Resolve is good. I've used Vegas for a long time. It's been probably over 15 years. I think I was using it in 2002 or 3 when it first came out. And it's been a great package, but we've kind of gotten off of it because we like some other things a little bit better. It took them a while to catch up. They've caught up quite a bit right now. They're much better than they used to be, even though in the beginning they were better than everybody else. It's sort of interesting. We still use Audition in here. We have a couple of Macs, but we're not really using Final Cut Pro at this point, partly because we don't really use Macs that much.
Yeah.
And
none of us right now are really Mac guys.
Now we have another video editor, which I haven't used that much, but it's kind of cool, and that's the Sony Catalyst. It has Catalyst Edit and Catalyst what's the other one? Pro or something like that.
Yeah, I forget, but yeah, I haven't really
It's
used
fun.
that one.
It's kind of fun. We just haven't done much with it. I don't know if it'll be around. Sony doesn't seem that dedicated to some of these products, so we'll have to see. It was developed originally by Sony when they owned Sony Creative, which was part of Vegas. Vegas was owned by Sony, but now they sold Vegas off to Magix in Germany, though the development team is still mostly in, I think it's Wisconsin. And I'm not sure where the development team for Catalyst is. For, you know, it's in Wisconsin too. I don't know. There are some things similar to Vegas. It's a kind of cool product, especially for Prepare. I think it was Catalyst Prepare and then Catalyst Edit. There's some cool features in it. Not a bad product at all. Some good color grading. Not great, but it's good. Though I have to admit, I haven't played with it in about a year. I just got my automatic renewal and went, oh, right, I have this. I should play with it some more. But it's pretty cool. And then if you're wondering about audio, we haven't really used Farlight, right?
Farlight. Yeah, I haven't done a whole lot with it yet.
But it looks very professional. It has a lot of nice features. And unlike Adobe, which has Premiere, and then you call in Adobe Audition for the audio processing, with Farlight, you get all of that built into it. So it can save some time once you get good at Farlight. And we do use Adobe Audition quite a bit just for other things. It's one of our favorite products. Well, anything you want to talk about, Harold?
Well, let's see. We've gone over the cameras, the monitors. I guess the one thing about the 705, I think we talked about this a little bit already, but one of the things that kind of vexed us a bit about the 705 was just how expensive the batteries are.
Oh, yeah. Canon XF705. You know, I didn't buy batteries with our lease. We did a Canon lease on this, and I figured batteries, who cares? They're not that expensive. Was I wrong? So I went to get some batteries from B&H, and I went, it was 200 and something, like $80 for the small one, the A30, BP A30, and then there's a BP A60 and a 90. The 60 was almost $500. So we ordered one because we don't really do that much run and gun with this kind of camera, and we can power it up with AC/DC, then we're good. We don't have to worry about it. But $500 for one battery. It doesn't come with a cable, a charger, or anything. It's like, really? One damn good battery, huh?
Yeah.
AC/DC, and then I think there's an A90, which is like $700.
Yeah.
And so now we ordered the Caster, the Caster dual battery charger for the BPA 30 and 60, and we ordered with that two of their equivalent A60s, which was $389 for two. So it's less than half the price for two plus one of those. So anyway, it's very interesting. Kind of a crazy little world. But I guess that's it. We didn't really plan on talking about too much. With Geoff not here, we are floundering a little bit, and I have no voice today. So shall we call it a show?
Yeah, I think we'll just about.
And Harold's
call it
suffering a
show.
little bit from the same thing too. We're both coughing and kind of trying to clear our upper bronch. Excuse me. Anyway, well, have a good weekend, everyone. If you like the show, give it a thumbs up. If you don't, well, that's the other thumb. And we will see you next week. I think we have a guest next week. And have a good one. Thanks for showing up. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Oh.
And